Like every single time that he and I are like, oh, I
They
can't
work
use that
fine
die
for me.
anymore. Yeah.
Well, no, we did banish all our dice to Logan.
Maybe there's something to this.
Huh.
Okay, so every time we get dice we don't like, we give them to Logan, and Logan rolls really poorly. No, that can't be our fault. It's the dice gods.
He did something.
Welcome to Monsters and Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Ellie.
Jared Bornigal.
And I'm Will Milton.
And on this episode, we are taking a look at the Aphemia from Mythic Odyssey of Theros. It's a big old harpy.
Yes, it is. It is a big old harpy. And if you've ever dealt with a harpy in your game, then, or even out of it, I guess just in all of history and going back as far as the Odyssey, I think there's harpies and their siren song. The general concept is they have a song that lures people in as they are then able to attack, do whatever it is that harpies do. But the Aphemia is a specific harpy in the Mythic Odysseys of Theros, the Magic the Gathering setting that's heavily based on Greek mythology. And this creature's description is the notorious Nyx-born Harpy Aphemia prowls the marshy waste around the necropolis of Asphodel. Her shrill songs enthrall the necropolis's undead inhabitants, which she leads on raids to waylay unsuspecting travelers and settlements. So this is a harpy that is more of like an undead controlling harpy. Has a couple of different songs that we'll obviously talk about, and I guess just jump right into the stat block. And, this, of course, as usual, will not be fully covering the history of it in Theros and any time it was used in some random Magic the Gathering card. I don't know it, but the important thing is that you can use this in your game regardless of the setting that you have.
Is Theros a magic setting?
Yeah.
Oh, I completely missed that.
Well, there goes any expertise we have. Just
right. We've been using Theros. It's been out for a long time. I think I see Theros, but I don't know.
Yeah, originally a Magic the Gathering block.
Completely missed that. Okay.
So this is a challenge rating 5 monster. It is a medium monstrosity and chaotic evil. Has a HP of 52, a speed of 20, and then a fly speed of 50, which is probably how it'll get around most of the time. Strength of 13, dex of 16, con 15, int 13, 14 wisdom, and 16 charisma. And then saving throws in dexterity and charisma, both at +6 there. It does have a couple of skills: Arcana, Intimidation, and Perception. Damage resistance to necrotic, which just makes sense if it's dealing with undead in any capacity. And then some condition immunities: cannot be charmed or frightened. It has dark vision out to 120 feet, passive perception of 15. It speaks common if you want to talk with it. And that's it. That's the first part. Damn it. I hate when I do that. Like, there's more. It's like, I already said it's challenge rating 5. I don't need to read its proficiency bonus.
That's 3, by the way. So you did say, if you want to talk with it, this, based on the skills, this does seem like something that you're intended to be talking with it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have intimidation.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I mean, it obviously has some goals. I mean, even looking at its goals, its whole thing is it leads on raids to waylay unsuspecting travelers and settlements. So it's saying that it's obviously trying to lure people in. The song is one way to do that, but it's not the only way that it could lure people in.
Right. Yeah, it seems like a lot of Mythic Odyssey of Theros is based off of Greek mythology, and a lot of that seems to be around like the monsters will be manipulative, and they can be manipulated by the hero. And there's a lot of stories of like people outsmarting the monsters through guile and wit, as opposed to just fighting. So I think it makes sense that this thing could.
Yeah, those are always really tough monsters to run too, especially when you are not very smart as a DM. It's like really easy to outwit you all the time. So it's like, yeah, all right, you guys win this one. So it has legendary resistances, 2 a day. And that's actually kind of interesting, being a challenge rating 5 creature and having legendary resistances. Seems a little unfitting, kind of. It does make me think that this is like a specific creature that if you run into, it's not like you run into another Aphemia, it's the Aphemia.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think that's like the name and title of this one.
Right. And Will, you were also saying that it's what is that word for?
Aphemia means a lack of speech controlled by the brain in medical parlance. So during a stroke, you struggle to talk because your brain can no longer control it. What that means, given that this can speak fine, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that comes in.
The connection, yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, we were talking about a little before, and like the etymology of the word is a Greek word that means without speech.
But it can talk. It can
like,
sing.
Sure, and it doesn't really take away the speech of other people.
No,
that's where
one might say it doesn't do that
be a clear
at all.
Right, it does a little bit in terms of like controlling people because it gets a Harpy with its songs, but yeah, it's not like robbing people of their speech.
No, so we'll talk more probably about that with its songs, but just something interesting to keep in mind as we go through this. Yeah. So yes, it does have, I said, 2 legendary resistances a day. This was, I guess, around the time when Wizards of the Coast was like, what if we gave less legendary resistances or more instead of just 3 for absolutely every creature ever? Even goblins have 3 legendary resistances. Then has magic resistance, so advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, which that combined with the legendary resistances means this thing's going to be very hard to put under any magical effects at all. And then it does have, for actions, multi-attack. So it can make a attack with its bite and one with its claws. The bite is +6 to hit, does 2d4 piercing damage and 3d8 necrotic damage. And then the claws are +6 to hit, do 2d6 +3 slashing damage. So nothing too wild there. It's not like it's necrotic damage that reduces your max HP or anything.
I'd say it's a heavy hitter, though, especially its bite for challenge rating 5. It's what, 31 average damage around?
Yes, around,
if
correct.
They both hit.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's up there.
I got to check the old chart of how to actually make challenge rating. Which, by the way, people, if you didn't know, challenge rating isn't just entirely made up. There's a whole chart in the DMG that describes where challenge rating comes from. We never,
but it doesn't take into account any like special abilities, like the intellect of hours, like eat your brain and control you like a puppet. Yeah, challenge rating 1/2.
I think they started adjusting a little bit later on, but yeah, it looks like average damage for a CR5 is 33 to 38 damage around.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, looking at that, they did factor in its abilities and the legendary saves, because the only thing that matches is the fact that it has a 15 armor class and +3 proficiency bonus. Otherwise, HP-wise, it's about a third of where it should be, because it has 52 HP, whereas usually challenge rating 5, closer to like 1... Honestly, I think on average you see closer to 100. This one's 130 on the chart. I actually use this chart a lot. I feel like, again, I'm a huge proponent of challenge rating, because we're like, it's totally useless. It's like it's not. It's just like learning a new language, and if you don't know the entire language, you lose a lot of the context. And sometimes it's garbage. And sometimes just like English. How often is English the worst language for no reason?
Right.
LOL is in the dictionary.
Is it?
Yes.
Let's not talk about what they've done to the dictionary since the internet came out.
Actually, it's fine. I'm for LOL in the dictionary. Languages evolve and change. It's become common. It's in the dictionary. Great. Good for LOL. Now, does it have a pronunciation guide? Like you pronounce it LAWL, or is it like this is an initialism of LOL?
I don't know. We'd have to pull it up, and I think we'd lose some people.
Okay. Oh, that's probably already happened.
LOL hasn't been an initialism for laughing out loud for like 10 years. It just means ha ha. It's just ruined.
Yeah. All right. So the songs that it has, these are each listed under its actions as well. We have the discordant song. The Aphemia shrieks a cacophony of magical sounds. Each humanoid within 120 feet of her must succeed on a DC 14 wisdom saving throw or be frightened of her until the song ends. A frightened creature takes 2d6 psychic damage at the start of its turn, and while the Aphemia is singing, it has to continue that. A frightened creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. If a creature saving throw is successful or the effect ends for it, the creature is immune to the song for the next 24 hours. And the creature needs to take a bonus action on subsequent turns to continue singing and can stop at any time. And the song ends if it dies or if it's incapacitated.
It's neat. So DC 14's wisdom's kind of low, I think. I like that they added damage onto it, where it's not just a frightened condition; it's also they take 2d6 psychic damage. But it's if they keep singing, though it only takes the bonus action, doesn't it?
To continue the singing, yes, which they have no other use for the bonus action.
Right. Okay. Never mind. That's right. When I first read through this, for some reason in my mind, I had action. It's like I don't know if that's worth an entire action round after round after round, but starting with this and then being able to bite and claw and then do the bonus action to keep singing. Okay. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, because then it's, if people fail on it, then you've got people frightened, so you've got advantage on attacks against. They have disadvantage on attacks against her or really anything, right? As long as it's within line of sight. My only issue, and I see this a lot, and I feel like every time I dislike it, it's the once you succeed, you can't come under the effects again, or just. If it ends for any reason. So if for some reason she switched it from her discordant song to the grave calling song, which we'll get to in a moment here, then you can't be back under the effects of it. And to me, that's where this stuff falls apart, because I think I did throw this at you all in a combat, and it was so unmemorable that we didn't, like, when I mentioned it, you're like, no lights went off, because the very first round I tried doing that, everyone saved on the wisdom saving throw. Well, now this is just a really boring fight. Nothing interesting happens because everyone succeeded on the one thing that makes this unique. And instead of being able to continue it on a subsequent round, trying to get that frightened off, trying to make this combat feel interesting in any way, it's like, oh no, you're just immune to it.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Though you have to be careful, because like on a lower challenge rating, parties have less tools to deal with something like this.
Sure.
With like the entire party's frightened and taking 7 psychic damage every turn automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all level 3. It's like there's not a
quick
ton
death
they could do about that. They all just have one attack. Where if you're like level 15, then it's like, yeah, don't take away that immune condition. So I think that's something that does need a scale of challenge rating a bit about the party's level.
Yeah, it almost feels weird though when you try to make a creature like this that's labeled as legendary a CR5. It means that you're only going to get the right feeling for it at level 3 or so, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And at level 3, this thing's actually terrifying. I mean, the bite and the claw has the ability to down somebody in a single round easily.
Right.
The average HP at level 3 is like 25 to maybe 30s if you're a barbarian. So 3d8 necrotic damage at that is just, you're out of there. So definitely a little bit weird. But there is another song in its toolkit, the Grave Calling song. The Aphemia intones a low, growling, magical melody. Every undead within 300 feet of her must succeed on a DC 14 wisdom saving throw or fall under her control until the spell ends. The Aphemia must take a bonus action on her subsequent turns to continue singing, and she can mentally command the undead under her control as part of the same bonus action. She can stop singing at any time, and the song ends if she's incapacitated or dead.
So this is one where it seems like it's in the stat block just to codify the flavor about how the Aphemia marches, undeads, hordes of undead onto settlements and caravans and things like that. I think it would be hard to justify using this in combat.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe at the beginning of the combat, she flies in singing this song, and there's a horde of undead below her, and then she stops singing. that song, and I guess they're technically outside of her control, but she has 50-foot fly speed, flying around, perching up in trees and stuff. It doesn't really matter. The undead are just going to attack the party.
Right. No, that's a very good point, and probably a better way of doing this. Now, I guess the idea would be as if this was I'll say random encounter. It's not the right word. Really more like a traveling encounter. Your party's going across a great distance, and they come across an undead horde, and your party at first is like, oh, let's go around that, right? That seems like a no-brainer. And they start hearing this song from a distance, and then the undead begin to head in that direction. And then once, as you said, once they're around, it's not like she's really worried about being attacked by undead. Go perch in a tree, and I doubt the skeleton's going to be throwing its xylophone ribs at you.
Right.
So then she can switch to her other song, the Discordant song, and your party is potentially frightened in this giant group of undead and has to deal with it that way. So then you're like, oh, can we see her? Like, she's hidden in the trees, so it doesn't have like the stealth skill or anything, but can definitely attempt to hide, making it more difficult for your ranged person to target her.
Or just, swoop in, do attacks, and leave.
That too. Though she doesn't get flyby.
No.
That'd be one way to make this a lot more difficult.
Right. This would, I don't want to say, oh, we should give her flyby, because this would be like the 5th monster in a row where we're like, that's what we talked about. They should have a way to avoid opportunity attacks. So we keep coming back to that. We keep covering monsters that like lean into that.
Yeah, I guess so. But hey, you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like that idea of if an attack hits, then it doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. It doesn't always have to be just, straight flyby, because I do think flyby itself is a little bit powerful.
Right.
And super dependent on the party comp. If you have just like very limited melee or range, it's just, you can't do anything. And that's, it can be a not fun mechanic.
Definitely agree. Whereas if it is that idea of they have to hit, if the party's familiar with that, then they can take the dodge action. And now that they've dodged, it's going to be a lot harder to hit them. She tries to run off, and you go, nope, going to hit you with an attack anyways. And with only 52 HP, unless it's a level 3 party, it's not going to take very long to knock that down.
Yeah, so the fact this thing is, you said it is tagged as legendary. It has a little L next to it.
Yep.
It's interesting because that is rare to see on challenge rating 5s. But I think that could fit, again, within the context of it being Greek mythology. Mm-hmm. Because this is like one of the lesser great monsters. This is like the heroes of the town will get together, go out and defeat the Aphemia as like the big start of like, okay, we're really actually something. Let's let's go
starting
out and
the hero's
change
journey.
The world. Yeah, this is not the big end all fight. This is not Hercules at the end of his journey.
Yeah, and you get like you can really make a like great lead up for this as well with other harpies. That's like a kind of that you're getting close to its den because you've seen harpies, or you come across a town where the graves have been robbed in favor of undead. Now, a point around that, she doesn't actually have a way of making undead, just controlling them.
No, right.
I think that's a product of where she lives.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like in Necropolis, right?
The marshy necropolis of Asphodel.
Yeah. So do like
that I see the distinction. I wasn't sure what distinction you were making there. As in, like, if there's just a corpse, she can't raise it from the dead.
Correct. So it's hard to be like just in a standard village and saying like, oh, there's this horrible monster that's been attacking other travelers. Will you please go save us and slay this beast? It's like, where is she getting undead from? That opens up a whole can of worms. Not a bad one though. I mean, if you want to lean into that, then she can be working in tandem with a necromancer, and the necromancer is the real big bad that you then discover after fighting the Aphemia that this isn't going to stop at just the Aphemia. This necromancer is raising corpses across the land and giving it to creatures as minions. That's pretty good, actually. Yeah, steal that. Use
Yeah.
that. In terms of like how big of a fight to make this, it really does depend on how many undead you want to throw her way as well. I feel like to some extent that grave calling song of being a DC 14 wisdom saving throw or the undead falls under her command like doesn't feel that important to me. Like that I don't almost like if for some reason your party has an undead, like you have a necromancer and you're like, oh, it's the bad necromancer that we're worried about.
Right.
Or like the Hexblade Warlock can get like a specter that rises from the ground. Like that's interesting if she can take control of it. But if it's like her minions that follow around, it'd be so annoying if you're like, oh yeah, she's got 50 of these things and let's see how many succeed on their wisdom saving throw to then go attack the party. Like those ones just fail. They're already under her control. Let's move along.
I agree.
But could definitely be quite a difficult fight from that perspective. Because if you do have 10 undead of varying challenge ratings, that's where like the bulk of the fight can come from.
Right.
And probably how I played up.
Definitely scary undead out there.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no like challenge rating limit on this.
Right.
I guess in theory she could control a lich.
If it fails its DC 14 wisdom saving throw.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like
they might also be immune to being
limits
charmed.
to.
What'd you say, Will?
That's like where you should be intuiting the limits. It's like, oh, just chuck out that DC 14. But also like bring that back to be like, yeah, no nightmare walkers, no liches.
Yeah.
Right. I'm also
42 demi liches. Where'd she get those?
Yeah, they can't be charmed.
Yeah. Darn, there goes that entire plan. Now, if you did it the other way around where a lich was using an Aphemia, that's fine. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. That could be cool.
But I do like that. I think you brought up a great point, Ellie, of it being like this, the first real test that a party has to pass, of being able to go out and slay this creature that's causing problems. And then you just start to uncover so much more and how this thing's just a pawn. That could be a really, really fun way to.
Right.
I think, say, when I threw it at you all, I might have done a different Harpy. There's like
it might have. I think it was the Harpy Matriarch, because there's like a pretty stark distinction that's probably worth noting, is that the mythic odyssey of Theros leaned into the Harpy as a Harpy from mythology, whereas the OG Harpy from D&D is a combo of the Harpy and the Siren.
That's a great point. Yes, and that's definitely the one that I was thinking of. The Harpy Matriarch is what I threw at you all, because it had that luring song, which same deal. Everybody succeeded on, and that was it. End of fun.
Yeah, I don't remember that fight at all.
And that's okay.
I remember it pretty distinctly. It was actually a little bit annoying until it wasn't, and then when everything was fine. So no, you remember it perfectly.
Which is like legitimately what I try to avoid in terms of encounters. Like they shouldn't be annoying, difficult, challenging, even frustrating a little bit, but just like, oh, this I can't play my character for 2 rounds and then it's a cakewalk is the worst type of encounter. So, but we're not talking about the Matriarch,
right?
There is also some baked in minions into Mythic Odysseys of Theros, the Blood Toll Harpy. Nothing too wild in terms of a stat block. It's a challenge 1/8 and armor class of 11, HP of 9. In terms of actions, I mean, it has multi-attack. It can do a bite. It can do a claw. They do, like, on average 3 damage each. So 6 damage a turn. Probably fine as minions if we are talking about, your level 3 people. And then it does have 2 unique-ish. I guess Blood Frenzy is not unique. It has 2 special abilities. Blood Frenzy, Harpy has advantage on melee attacks, rolls against creatures that don't have all of their hit points. And then Dark Devotion, the Harpy has advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. So just some things you can throw in there. Say a pre-fight to wear down the party that doesn't have the harpy flavor that is mixed with sirens, like Will mentioned in we'll say classic D&D. And I feel like that's a really easy way to have both types in your game. You just rename the monster manual harpies as sirens and just move on from there.
Is there any changes you would like to make to the Aphemia? Aphemia.
Yeah, I keep saying it wrong too. I feel like part of me wants to say just like letting it sing both of its songs at once, just because it feels almost pointless. But at the same time, I feel like we came up with a very reasonable way around that, using the Grave Calling song to move the undead into position and then letting them loose because they're undead. They're not going to be like, oh, we're not under control anymore. Let's just leave.
Right.
But I think the only thing would just be the discordant song. You mentioned that like it's nice that it does the 2d6 psychic damage because that's kind of neat. But if you are if you're putting it up against your lower level party, I would probably drop that down to 1d6 and just let it be really small and allow them to re-up the song and fall back under its control. So lower the damage a little bit to make the recurring aspect of it less deadly.
All right, I got an idea. Because I agree and I disagree. Because it's not fun to be frightened for the entire duration of a fight. And so you often add that rider of 24 hours to things that are particularly horrible and ones that are impossible to beat. So Ancient Red Dragon, 21 DC, somebody in your party has a +0 to wisdom saves. It needs that immunity or the game's ruined, really.
Sure.
So for this, my idea is you have to succeed the saving throw by like a certain surplus, maybe even a soft one like +2, so a 16, just to make the stats a little bit on the side of it happening more.
So are you saying that you should just raise the DC flat out, or that if you overpass it, then you are now immune to it?
Yeah. So essentially, maybe keep it the same. You overpass it 3, 5, and you get that little percentage buffer, because when it's 14, just every single person at the table has like a 1 in 4 chance. Just ignore it entirely.
Right.
And that's not huge, but it's not rare. So that's, I don't know.
Now, say you mentioned the that frightened isn't a fun condition. I don't feel like frightened's the worst. You still have your turn. You can't move closer to the creature. It really only stinks if you don't have any ranged abilities.
Exactly.
Because just having disadvantage, it's not that big of a deal. It stinks. It's a challenge. You want to get rid of it because it's not fun. I just shot myself in the foot there. It's you don't want it, but I don't feel like it's an encounter ruiner. It's not like you are restrained and stunned or anything like that. So, I don't know if I fully agree with it needing to have a way of being immune to it. But that would be one way to do it. There's obviously the opposite angle of if you fail by a certain extent, you take additional pain points, whatever. Doing the opposite of if you succeed by enough, now you are fully immune to it, is I think a much more interesting way to handle these types of immunity effects. And I'll probably be taking that.
It adds complexity, which is why I think that it's not a common thing, but I think there could be fun to be derived out of it. From this, and probably even more so a lot of other things we've encountered. This was just kind of like, it can be annoying, and your paladin getting stuck in this just sucks.
Yeah, without any ranged abilities or
the barbarian who forgot the javelins.
You can't ever forget the javelins.
You can't forget
on
the
barbarian,
but they do it. Friggin' barbarians.
Keep in mind, there'll probably be other things to attack, even if they can't get closer to the harpy, to get attack the undead minions.
Probably.
That's true. Yeah, if there's undead minions around, then maybe the paladin doesn't particularly care. And that just makes the fight better timed, because if a paladin, even a level 3 paladin, got its hands on this thing, is gone.
Yeah.
Like, just, one attack, smite on it. I mean, that's like I don't know, half of its HP right there.
Right. Especially, yeah, but like great sword 2d6 with great weapon master plus 10 plus 4 because of strength, smite for additional 2d8. So 2d6 plus 2d8 plus 14.
Yeah, I don't even know if we need to have that particular conversation because it's just true of any monster. Like,
Right.
if you have a paladin with a great weapon master, you're very used to just seeing the HP and doubling it. Yeah, okay, that's not enough. There's
Right.
never enough unless it's flying and the paladin doesn't have a chance of getting to it. Or the paladin goes ASMR in order to get wings to then fly after it. Because
Yep.
that's what I did.
I know, yeah. That's when you start raising the AC. You don't up the house because that makes flights too long. You just start raising the AC and you really punish them for that -5 to the attack.
Yeah, that's a good point. Though I feel like every time I do that, I end up just punishing our one player who can't roll above like a 5 on any of their attack
That's
rolls.
his fault at this point.
Yeah.
I know that's not how dice works, but he must be doing something wrong. It's been too consistent across all characters.
He hurt some dice gods.
Right? Accidentally bought reverse loaded dice.
Most of his dice
never
were given
realized
by either Will or myself. Like every single time that he and I are like, oh, I
They
can't
work
use that
fine
die
for me.
anymore. Yeah.
Well, no, that actually, we did banish all our dice to Logan.
Maybe there's something to this.
Huh.
Okay, so every time we get dice we don't like, we give them to Logan, and Logan rolls really poorly. No, that can't be our fault. It's the dice gods.
He did something.
Or he didn't. He didn't buy his own frickin' set.
He's doing
All
a
right.
job.
Yeah. And he could have bought a set using the code MM10 and saved 10% off on Metallic Dice games. And he totally missed the boat on that when they were having their Mother's Day sale recently. And any sale that they have, our code stacks on top of. So you can just get those deals way up there and get free shipping on orders over $49. And he didn't. He didn't do that. It's just waiting there for him. Do you want to be like that, listener? No. You're going to use the code. You're going to use the code. Anything else around the Aphemia?
No, I'm still confused on the name. I'm going to dig into that more. I don't want to sit here doing research on the show, but maybe we could do a follow-up as a pinned comment or description. We could figure that one out.
Yeah, or if you know in the comments, please let us know if there's history that we aren't sure of. I bet the Magic the Gathering card has like flavor text that explains it all that we did not come across. Thank you as usual to our patrons: Ed G, Muddleweight, Brian H, Craig A, Isaac M, Jet W, Luca L, Star Shinobi, Vincent M, Bob F, Joe P, Rick D, Sensitively 20, Tyler S, Adam A, and Rob K. You all are awesome. If you want to join our Patreon, you can go ahead and go to monstersofmulticlass.com/support, where you can see all of our other stuff that we have, other affiliates like Metallic Dice Games, and more. And you will most likely get your episodes a day early, like 90% of the time. Pretty good about it. And you just help out the show, which we always appreciate. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed what you heard, or if we helped, or if you want to use Aphemia in your game, or if you're confused about the name, or if you just want to give us a sympathy like. We're not picky.
We're not. All right, and as always, thanks for watching.